In a digital age marked by superficial relationships and fleeting connections, the quest for genuine bonds with women becomes increasingly challenging. Have you ever wondered why some people linger in our thoughts for hours or days, while others are forgotten in minutes? The answer may lie in age-old principles that transcend fads and artificial techniques. The ancient Stoic philosophers, even without imagining the challenges of modern relationships, left teachings that, when applied correctly, completely transform how you are perceived and remembered. Unlike magic formulas promising to win over any woman in 7 days, what you're about to discover are deep philosophical principles that demand genuine personal development. This isn't a path to manipulate others' emotions, but to cultivate a character that naturally sparks lasting interest and admiration. Stoicism, a philosophy developed in ancient Greece, emphasizes virtues like self-control, courage, and wisdom, the qualities that, when authentically embodied, create a magnetic and memorable masculine presence. Imagine being that man who stays on her mind even when you're absent, not because of psychological games or questionable techniques, but because of the substance of your character and the quality of your presence. The 7 principles you'll learn now are based on the timeless wisdom of the great Stoics like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, adapted for the context of contemporary relationships. The beauty of these principles lies in their dual benefit. While they naturally spark genuine interest in the women you're interested in, they also elevate your own quality of life and personal well-being. It's an approach centered on excellence, not manipulation. In Stoicism, the focus always remains on what's within your control, your character, your actions, your values, never on the reactions or responses of others. Prepare for a journey of self-development that will transform not just your romantic relationships, but your entire life experience. These Stoic secrets, when truly understood and embodied, create a version of you so authentic and balanced that you will naturally linger in her thoughts for hours, days, or even years. Strategic distance represents the first and perhaps most counterintuitive of the Stoic principles for sparking lasting interest. In a culture obsessed with constant availability and uninterrupted communication, giving space has become a forgotten art. For the Stoics, however, space wasn't just necessary, it was essential for the flourishing of any meaningful relationship. When you cultivate emotional independence and genuinely dedicate yourself to your purposes and passions, you naturally create an aura of mystery and value. This isn't about the old cliché of playing hard to get, but a philosophical approach, recognizing a fundamental truth. People of substantial value have meaningful lives beyond relationships. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic masters, taught that we should do few things but do them well. When you apply this principle to your relationships, you establish a quality of presence that becomes more valued for its rarity. Think of it like an exquisite perfume. Its value and impact are amplified precisely because it isn't always present. In practice, this means developing a rich and meaningful life, independent of any romantic interest. Cultivate deep friendships, develop valuable skills, pursue knowledge and personal growth. These activities not only enrich your existence, but create a magnetic personality that naturally sparks curiosity and interest. Strategic distance also manifests in how you manage your emotional and physical availability. Instead of instantly replying to every message or canceling important commitments to see her, you demonstrate through actions that while she is important, your life has independent purpose and direction. This emotional autonomy communicates strength and stability, deeply attractive qualities in a world of dependencies and insecurities. It's crucial to understand that this principle doesn't encourage coldness or calculated indifference. On the contrary, when you are present, you are fully present, mentally, emotionally, and physically engaged in the shared moment. It is this contrast between meaningful absence and full presence that creates an irresistible dynamic that lingers in the mind long after the encounter ends. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This ability to find contentment in your own company makes your presence in her life a conscious choice, not a desperate need, and few qualities are as magnetically attractive as this quiet self-sufficiency. Integrate this principle gradually, finding the balance between availability and autonomy that works in your specific context. Start by regularly dedicating time to activities that enrich your life regardless of relationships, a passionate hobby, meaningful volunteer work, or honing a valuable skill. The goal isn't to create artificial distance, but to develop a life so rich and full that occasional distance becomes a natural consequence of your pursuit of personal excellence. The second Stoic secret that transforms you into an unforgettable presence is meaningful and concise communication. In an era of superficial conversations and the constant exchange of empty messages, the man who expresses himself with purpose and depth instantly stands out. The Stoic philosophers, particularly Seneca, were masters of impactful communication, capable of conveying profound wisdom in a few precise words. A philosopher's speech should be like medicine. Its effects should be felt, wrote Seneca. This ancient wisdom gains special relevance in a world where digital communication often dilutes meaning in a sea of words. When you cultivate the art of meaningful communication, each interaction becomes an opportunity to create a lasting impression. In practice, this means completely abandoning reactive and thoughtless communication. Before sending any message, ask yourself, does this add value? Does it express something genuine? Does it reflect who I truly am? This brief reflective pause, a micro-Stoic exercise, immediately elevates the quality of your communication. Saying less but with more meaning creates a striking contrast to the prevailing pattern of constant, empty communication. When your messages and conversations carry weight and substance, whether perceptive insights, unique observations, or questions that show genuine interest, you become memorable for stimulating thought and reflection. Importantly, meaningful communication doesn't exclusively mean deep philosophical conversations. It could be a perceptive comment about a movie you watched together, an attentive observation about something she mentioned weeks ago, or a question demonstrating you truly listen and value her perspectives. It's the quality of attention behind the words, not their complexity, that leaves a lasting impression. The Stoics particularly valued congruence between words and actions. Let your actions not contradict your words, advised Epictetus. This means meaningful communication extends beyond what you say. It encompasses the consistency between your words and your behavior. This communicative integrity builds deep trust and respect, qualities that naturally keep you on her mind. In the digital age, this principle gains specific applications. Instead of maintaining text conversations that drag on for hours without substance, favor less frequent but more meaningful interactions. A single well-crafted message demonstrating perception and genuine consideration will have more impact than 20 generic messages. Also, practice periods of digital silence. The absence of constant communication creates space for reflection and anticipation. In-person communication offers even more powerful opportunities to apply this principle. Cultivate the art of deep listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak, but genuinely absorbing and processing what she communicates. This quality of attention has become so rare that, when authentically practiced, it leaves an almost indelible impression. Insightful questions arising from this genuine listening communicate a level of interest and consideration few men show. Integrate this principle by starting with a simple Stoic practice. Before each significant interaction, set a clear intention to communicate with purpose and authenticity. Gradually, you'll discover that fewer words, chosen carefully and delivered with full presence, create much deeper connections than volumes of superficial communication. The third Stoic principle that creates an unforgettable presence is the art of the genuine compliment. This practice represents a complete break from superficial approaches and manipulative techniques. In Stoicism, the recognition of inner virtues, courage, integrity, wisdom, resilience, always took precedence over external attributes. When you develop the ability to authentically perceive and appreciate these deep qualities, you establish connections that resonate long after the moment. Praise not a man for his looks, praise him for his character, advised Epictetus. This principle, adapted to modern relationships, completely transforms the dynamic of compliments. While most men limit themselves to superficial remarks about physical appearance, something attractive women hear constantly, You become memorable by recognizing and valuing her essential qualities and significant achievements. In practice, this requires attentive observation and genuine appreciation. You need to develop what the Stoics call disciplined attention, the ability to truly see the person beyond superficial impressions. When we notice and validate the deeper aspects of someone, their intellectual insight, their compassion in difficult situations, their integrity when it would be easier to compromise, their resilience in the face of challenges, we create moments of authentic connection that persist in memory. A genuine compliment has three distinct characteristics. It's specific, it's timely, and it reflects careful observation. "You're smart" has far less impact than "I was impressed by how you analyzed that complicated situation at work," considering angles most people would miss. The first is generic and forgettable. The second shows you truly observed, processed, and valued something significant about her. This principle also involves recognizing efforts and progress, not just results. When you notice and appreciate the path she travels towards her goals, the small steps forward, the difficulties overcome, you demonstrate a deeper understanding of her personal journey that few can articulate. This form of validation resonates deeply because it acknowledges not just what she has achieved, but who she is becoming. It's important to understand that a genuine compliment is never used as a tool for manipulation or adulation. The Stoics despised flattery as a form of dishonesty that diminishes both the giver and the receiver. The true Stoic compliment arises naturally from sincere observation and authentic appreciation, never from a desire to get something in return. This purity of intention is precisely what makes such acknowledgement so powerful and memorable. Another crucial aspect of the genuine compliment is timing. The most impactful moments to recognize virtues are often those when the person herself isn't fully aware of her strength or value. Acknowledging her resilience during a tough time, her wisdom in a complex situation, or her kindness in a moment others might overlook, these timely acknowledgements create deep emotional connections. To integrate this principle, start developing the Stoic habit of daily reflection. Set aside a few minutes each day to genuinely consider the qualities you admire in the important people in your life. This practice not only sharpens your capacity for deep observation, but also cultivates an authentic appreciation that naturally expresses itself in meaningful acknowledgements that will linger in her thoughts long after they are spoken. The fourth Stoic secret that creates a magnetic presence is authentic generosity as an expression of character. For the Stoics, the virtue of generosity wasn't in grand, ostentatious gestures, but in consistent actions expressing genuine consideration. The benefit lies not in what is done or given, but in the intention of the giver, wrote Seneca. This perspective completely transforms the concept of generosity in modern relationships. In a culture where expensive gifts and extravagant gestures are often used to impress, Stoic generosity follows a radically different path. It manifests in thoughtfully considered acts that demonstrate attentive observation and deep understanding. When you offer something, be it a gesture, a gift, or simply your time, that reveals you've truly observed, listened, and understood her desires, needs, or interests, you create a connection that stays in memory. In practice, authentic generosity requires you to completely abandon the transactional mindset. The Stoics understood that virtuous actions have intrinsic value, regardless of the results they produce. When you practice generosity without expectation of immediate reciprocity or return on investment, you demonstrate a rarity in the contemporary world, genuine altruism. This quality, when authentically expressed, creates a deep and lasting impression. Stoic generosity manifests most powerfully in small, consistent gestures that demonstrate consideration and attention. Remembering something she mentioned weeks ago and acting on it. Offering help even before it's requested. Providing quiet support when you notice she's facing a challenge. These small acts of consideration, when aligned with her specific needs and values, communicate a powerful message. I see you, not superficially, but deeply. It's important to understand that this principle goes far beyond material gifts. In fact, some of the most impactful forms of generosity don't involve physical objects. The generosity of mindful attention during a conversation, the generosity of space when someone needs to process emotions, the generosity of non-judgmental support in moments of vulnerability. These expressions of consideration, precisely because of their rarity, create moments of connection that remain vividly in memory. The Stoics also understood a profound truth about human nature. We remember more vividly how people make us feel than what they specifically do. When your authentic generosity makes someone feel truly valued, understood, and supported, you create an emotional impression that persists long after the specific moment. These positive feelings often return to consciousness hours or days later, keeping your presence alive in her thoughts. To integrate this principle, cultivate the Stoic habit of intentional reflection about the important people in your life. Regularly ask yourself, what truly matters to her? What challenges her currently? How can I add genuine value to her experience? This practice of deliberate consideration naturally reveals opportunities to express authentic generosity in ways that will resonate deeply. The key to this principle is consistency and authenticity. Small, genuine gestures offered consistently over time create a much more lasting impression than grand occasional displays. When generosity flows naturally from your character, not as a tactic, but as a genuine expression of consideration, you become a presence that naturally lingers in thoughts long after each interaction. The fifth Stoic principle that creates an unforgettable presence is the intentional breaking of predictable patterns. Although the Stoics valued discipline and consistency, they also deeply understood the power of contextual originality and creative adaptation. Uniformity is the enemy of pleasure, observed Seneca, recognizing that novelty and variation naturally stimulate mental engagement. This principle offers a fundamental counterpoint to the predictability that often stifles interest in modern relationships. When your actions, conversations, and approaches follow completely predictable patterns, the human brain, programmed to conserve energy, literally starts paying less attention. You become part of the background noise of her experience, easily filtered out by consciousness. Intentional pattern breaking creates what neuroscientists call salience, moments that stand out from the normal flow of experience and receive priority mental processing. When you introduce elements of positive novelty and contextual surprise into your interactions, you create experiences that naturally persist in memory and frequently resurface in thoughts. In practice, this principle doesn't suggest erratic or inconsistent behavior, but rather the deliberate introduction of positive variability within a framework of fundamental reliability. It's like a well-crafted musical composition. Familiarity of the basic structure allows the variations and improvisations to have maximum impact. Your consistency of character, the sixth principle will address, forms the foundation that makes positive variability so effective. This pattern breaking can manifest in numerous ways. It could be the unexpected choice of activities that contrast with the usual but reveal new facets of your personality. It could be the expression of a surprising perspective that demonstrates depth of thought. It could be a completely unexpected gesture of consideration that demonstrates attentive observation. The common element is that these positive variations create standout moments that naturally command mental space. The Stoics understood that the human mind naturally returns to unfinished or incompletely processed experiences, a phenomenon modern psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect. When you introduce elements that challenge established expectations, positively you create a cognitive incompletion that keeps the mind naturally engaged, even in your absence. These cognitive gaps attract repeated attention, keeping you present in thoughts. It's crucial to understand that this principle doesn't encourage manipulative behavior or emotional games. Negative unpredictability, like abrupt mood swings, emotional inconsistency, or erratic behavior, creates anxiety and distrust, not healthy interest. Pattern breaking in the Stoic context always involves positive variations that add value to the shared experience. To integrate this principle, cultivate the Stoic habit of deliberate innovation. Regularly ask yourself, how can I introduce new and valuable elements into this dynamic? Consciously experiment with different approaches, activities, and conversation topics. Carefully observe what resonates and expand in those directions. This cycle of conscious experimentation and attentive observation gradually reveals a repertoire of positive variations that naturally maintain interest and curiosity. Balance is key. Too much predictability leads to disinterest, while excessive unpredictability breeds insecurity. The Stoic sweet spot is positive variability within a reliable framework of consistent character. When you master this balance, you become a presence that continually stimulates curiosity and renewed interest, a positive enigma that naturally occupies prime mental real estate. The sixth Stoic secret that creates a magnetic presence is consistent authenticity, perhaps the most fundamental principle of Stoic philosophy applied to modern relationships. For the Stoics, personal integrity meant complete alignment between internal beliefs, expressed words, and actions taken. First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do, advised Epictetus, articulating this fundamental congruence between being and doing. In an era of fluid identities and adaptive personalities, a man who consistently manifests his true essence, without shaping himself to please or impress momentarily, becomes a remarkable rarity. This consistent authenticity creates a distinctly reliable presence that remains vividly in the mind even in physical absence. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Focus on being yourself, not on appearing to be something." In practice, this principle requires deep self-knowledge and significant moral courage. True authenticity begins with clarity about your core values, principles, and purposes, what the Stoics called dogmata, or fundamental beliefs. When you establish clarity about what you truly value and believe, you create an internal compass that guides your behavior consistently, regardless of external circumstances. This internal consistency, manifested externally, creates a quality of presence that markedly contrasts with the chameleon-like adaptation characterizing many modern interactions. When someone perceives that you remain true to your values and principles, even when it would be more convenient to adapt them, it establishes a precious rarity in contemporary relationships, deep trust based on predictability of character, not behavior. The Stoics understood a profound psychological truth that modern neuroscience confirms. The human mind naturally seeks coherent and reliable patterns. When your behavior demonstrates principle-based consistency, not inflexible rigidity, but fidelity to core values, you provide a framework of trust that allows genuine connection. This consistency creates a sense of psychological safety that naturally draws repeated mental attention. Importantly, consistent authenticity doesn't mean inflexibility or lack of growth. The Stoics highly valued continuous development, but this growth occurred as a natural expansion of character, not as a fundamental redesign to please others. Stoic authenticity is like an oak tree that grows and expands while maintaining its fundamental essence, not like a chameleon that changes its nature according to the environment. In the age of digital relationships and multiple identities, this principle gains special relevance. When you maintain consistency between your online and offline presence, between your words and actions, between promises and follow-through, you create a perceived integrity that stands out precisely because of its rarity. This complete congruence forms a unified and coherent impression that naturally persists in memory. To integrate this principle, practice the Stoic exercise of value clarification. Regularly ask yourself, what are my non-negotiable principles? What truly matters to me? How can I express these values more consistently in my interactions? This continuous reflection gradually reveals and strengthens your authentic core, allowing you to present yourself more consistently and congruently in all contexts. Consistent authenticity also means appropriate emotional honesty, not exaggerating feelings for effect, nor suppressing them out of fear of vulnerability. The Stoics valued the appropriate and proportional expression of emotions, guided by wisdom and virtue. This calibrated emotional honesty creates moments of genuine connection that naturally stay alive in memory and reflection. The seventh and final Stoic principle that creates an unforgettable presence is emotional balance, the ability to fully experience emotions while maintaining the capacity to respond to them with wisdom and moderation. Contrary to the erroneous stereotype of coldness or emotional suppression, true Stoicism teaches the healthy integration of emotions into a virtuous life experience. It's not that we don't feel, but that we don't consent, explained Epictetus, articulating the crucial difference between experiencing emotions and being dominated by them. This balance, feeling fully while responding wisely, represents perhaps the most distinctive and attractive quality you can cultivate in modern relationships. In a world of emotional extremes, where many oscillate between complete suppression and impulsive expression, Stoic balance creates a remarkably centered and reliable presence. In practice, this principle manifests as visible emotional resilience, the ability to remain stable and responsive even in challenging circumstances. When you demonstrate the capacity to process frustration without outbursts, express disagreement without hostility, face disappointments without crumbling, and navigate conflicts with consideration and clarity, you create an impression of inner strength that naturally inspires trust and admiration. This emotional stability creates what psychologists call psychological safety, a relational environment where there's enough trust for authentic vulnerability. When she perceives that your reactions are proportional and grounded, not impulsive or exaggerated, she naturally feels safe to express her own genuine thoughts and feelings. This dynamic of reciprocal safety creates connections that persist vividly in memory. Stoic emotional balance also manifests as a distinctive quality of presence during challenges and crises. While others might collapse under pressure or react with panic and impulsivity, your ability to maintain mental clarity and proportional response naturally highlights your presence. These challenging situations often create intense emotional memories that persist for years or decades. It's important to understand that emotional balance doesn't mean the absence of emotions or constant superficial tranquility. The Stoics fully recognized the complete spectrum of human emotional experience as natural and inevitable. The difference lies in the relationship with those emotions, processing them wisely and responding to them virtuously instead of being blindly driven by them. This mature relationship with emotions creates a depth of character that naturally draws repeated attention. In the age of digital communication, this principle gains specific applications. Your proportional response to online provocations, your refusal to be dragged into unnecessary drama, your ability to express disagreement respectfully, all these manifestations of emotional balance markedly contrast with the impulsive reactivity characterizing many digital interactions. This difference in quality makes your presence naturally memorable. To integrate this principle, practice the Stoic technique of the reflective pause. Before responding to emotionally charged situations, establish the habit of creating a brief space between stimulus and response. In this interval, ask yourself, what response best expresses my values and character? How can I respond in a way I'll be proud of later? This simple practice gradually develops the ability to fully experience emotions while responding to them wisely. Emotional balance also involves the crucial capacity for appropriate vulnerability. The Stoics didn't advocate for emotional invulnerability, but for authentic expression guided by wisdom. Sharing genuine feelings appropriately, neither completely suppressing them out of fear, nor impulsively unloading them, creates moments of authentic connection that naturally persist in emotional memory. These 7 Stoic principles, strategic distance, meaningful communication, genuine compliments, authentic generosity, intentional pattern breaking, consistent authenticity, and emotional balance, form an integrated system of personal development that naturally creates a memorable masculine presence. Unlike manipulative tactics that promise quick results at the cost of integrity, these principles demand genuine cultivation of character, but the results are incomparably deeper and more lasting. The power of this Stoic approach lies in its dual benefit. While it naturally creates a presence that lingers in her thoughts, it also elevates your own quality of life and personal satisfaction. You aren't adopting artificial behaviors to manipulate perceptions, but developing authentic virtues that enrich your entire life experience. Even if no romantic relationship resulted from these efforts, although that's highly unlikely, you would still have cultivated a character that naturally attracts respect, trust, and admiration in all areas of life. The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane, wrote Marcus Aurelius. hinting at the philosophical foundation Stoics developed. This commitment to authentic development, not superficial manipulation, is precisely what makes the Stoic approach so powerfully effective in contemporary relationships. In a world saturated with questionable techniques and empty promises, the genuine cultivation of character creates a distinctive contrast that naturally captures and holds attention. Start right now incorporating these principles into your life. Don't try to implement them all at once. The Stoic approach always valued gradual, sustainable progress over dramatic but fleeting transformations. Choose one principle that particularly resonates with you and begin consciously integrating it into your daily interactions. Carefully observe the results, adjust your approach as needed, and gradually expand to the other principles. Always remember that the true goal isn't to manipulate others' thoughts or emotions, but to cultivate a character so authentically admirable that it naturally remains in consciousness. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Similarly, the best strategy to be remembered isn't to manipulate perceptions, but to be genuinely memorable through excellence of character. Develop these 7 Stoic principles, and you won't need artificial techniques or manipulative approaches. Your presence will naturally create an impression so distinctive and valuable that it will linger vividly in her thoughts, not just for hours or days, but potentially for a lifetime.